Well, Chum's program offering secure overnight parking to people living in their vehicles made a recent and contentious move to Duluth's Vineyard Church in Kenwood.
As we reported Monday, its operation there was short-lived, closed just after 9 days due to an appeal filed by neighbors.
In Northern News Now, Sophia Lauber heard from Chum and faith leaders today. A lot of pushback to the pause here, Sophia.
Absolutely, Dan and Laura. I was at a press conference today where leaders shared their disappointment with the program's temporary closure while the appeal plays out. But they say they're confident this will be just a short pause. As a resident of the Kenwood neighborhood, Corinne Freedom Ellis says she sees where people are coming from with their concerns about Safe Bay.
I would say that fear is, of course, an understandable response. We all fear the unknown, right?
But she adds that initial fear needs to be accompanied by compassion and curiosity, as homelessness can impact anyone.
The reality of folks facing homelessness is that they're just trying to make it through the day like any of the rest of us.
While public back and forth has been focused on worries surrounding drug use, safety, and trespassing, a statement released by the attorney representing neighbors who filed the appeal states it's not about the type of activity being conducted at Vineyard Church, but rather about the manner the permit was processed. Project organizer Joel Kilgour says to him, the appeal seems to be nitpicking.
There's no merit to it. They were all issues that were addressed previously at the Planning Commission, which voted unanimously to approve the permit.
Kilgour says the city's appeals process, which pauses a permit until the appeal is heard, harms programs like Safe Bay, which people depend on for necessary resources.
And for this to shut down, that really erodes that trust that we built with people, and all of a sudden people are thrown back out on the street, unsure if they can trust anybody, not sure where they can go to the bathroom.
City Council will hear the appeal at a special meeting on June 5th. Kilgour says he's confident the council will allow Safe Bay to reopen. We did reach out to the attorney who has filed that appeal on behalf of the neighbors, but they declined an interview.
All right, Sophia, thank you. Now, we also reached out to the Duluth Police Department and confirmed that there were not any calls to Safe Bay during the short time it operated at Vineyard.